All right, we are live. This is episode 58 of the Deconstruction Podcast, brought to you by Jobtable, the simplest way to grow and manage your construction business. As always, I'm going to kick it off here with one of our latest reviews. This is from Chris Stigas. This is a contractor in Toronto. Short and sweet here. Wonderful, straightforward, and easy to use platform. Fantastic customer support, and totally the reason why my business can now scale with ease. So love
Short and
that
sweet.
review. It hits what kind of we're known for, right? Easy to use customer support, which we say is our bread and butter, and obviously being a platform that allows companies to grow and scale efficiently.
I
So
feel like this review is a good reflection of our company. Simple and sweet.
It's good to get reviews like that.
of course, and we have a special guest today. We have John McDonald on the pod once again. Second time on the show. I think you were back on, I was checking, episode 41. So that was actually one of my, I'm not just saying this, that was one of my favorite episodes, just the insights, the wisdom you bring. So just a quick intro here, John. He's a business leader, coach, and expert. Like I said, first time John was on the show, we got so many amazing insights, great feedback that were incredibly valuable to not only us, but our listeners as well. John works closely with a lot of construction and trades companies, so we wanted to bring him on back on the show, talk strategy, operations, ongoing education in the trades, as well as some other topics. So John, welcome back.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I always like talking to you guys. It's so energetic. Just the energy you two deliver is fantastic. And working with the trades is probably one of the most exciting areas of business, I find.
Yeah, no, I can second that, being in other industries and now working in the trades directly myself. Special industry for sure. If you don't mind, John, do a quick introduction for those who might not know you or tuned into the first episode. Just a quick intro on yourself.
Absolutely. I'm John McDonald, and I'm married, same wife for 38 years and going, and 39 in May, I believe.
That's always good.
Yes. And we've got 4 kids, married, 9 grandkids, and life is really good on the
Amazing.
home side.
Forks.
Started,
God bless you.
yeah, thank you. Then we started a business back in the 80s, the mid 80s. And the mid 80s was a great time in a lot of areas, but we did have those high inflation times. 21% interest was the norm on a house mortgage. But it was a time of the economy was really booming in the second half of the 80s. The first half was pretty tough. And rolled into the 90s, and technology started coming into play. So back in the 80s, we saw the fax machine get introduced. And by 2000 and something, the fax machine is seldom used. And so we've seen technologies come and go. And we have been in a lot of industries, a lot of businesses, from international freight, aircraft, tractor trailers, theme park business, the franchise business. We've been involved in a couple trade companies where I didn't do the trade work, but we were investors in it, in real estate, and a host of others. And it's been a great journey over the decades. And why I like the trades, and I like every sector, but the trades, I find that the men and women who both own these companies and work in these companies are so just honest. They just say it the way it is. They're not positioning themselves. If they just say the way it is. And so that's why I really enjoy.
Thanks for sharing that, John. I want to start off with a topic that has actually been coming up a lot recently in my conversations with company owners. It's been just surfacing a lot recently. So I just wanted to get your kind of take on all this and open this up. So it's about job costing and actually knowing what your true profit is for each project or job. So the vast majority of companies that I speak to don't actually know how much profit they're making on each job. They might know on like a company level, but they don't know on each individual project. And most people will have a vague idea of what their costs are. Like there's a lot of guesstimating happening, which often leads to a lot of blind spots. And I see this now, it's really becoming an issue, especially during slower periods where margins are tight. So for example, in high times where things are busy, you have multiple jobs on the go. You might be a company, maybe have one or two jobs that are highly profitable. You're seeing positive cash flow. Everything seems to be rolling and looking good. But the problem is that those one or two profitable jobs can easily mask those unprofitable ones where you don't even know, right? So this company is making money. You might actually, although like the company is making money, you might actually be losing money on the other jobs and not even know it, which means there's a lot of money being left on the table. So this is why having like proper job costing is very important and should be part of every company's processes and procedures. So just wanted to get your insight on that. Just open it up on job costing and strategies, things you notice on your side.
Yeah, that's actually, you're right on with that being, it's a pretty big problem, and especially in the trades, because only when you look at trades overall in Canada, we get licensed or we're certified in the trade, but only 18% of all tradespeople have any education at all in numbers. And so even though you could be a master electrician or a bricklayer or whatever backhoe operator, really good at it, you don't have any education on running the numbers. And that piece, when I go into a company, we usually can immediately find several tens of thousands of dollars that are being lost. And one of the places is, and this number is a few years old. It was just before COVID, so we're going back 6 years. But it was a study that the government did in Ontario, and it was asking tradespeople and finding out. I don't know how they did the study, but it was that the average tradesperson prior to 2020, and this would be a company of 6 employees or less, was leaving more than $60,000 a year never invoiced. And those were the small jobs where they were working somewhere and someone says, hey, well, you're here. Can you do this? And because tradespeople love what they do and want to help their customers, they do it. They don't bill it. So if you're out there listening, start thinking about the number of jobs you haven't invoiced. I was recently with a plumbing company in Ontario. Just since January 1st to now, we uncovered that there's about $25,000 that they have not even invoiced. They forgot to. And they didn't have any kind of platform like Jobtable or anywhere that was even gathering what jobs they were doing. And they came across it when they sold their truck and they're clearing out paperwork. They found pieces of paper and that's what was represented. So those are the easy ones to catch. Do you have
Now,
any?
sorry, that's such an interesting, and as you say that, I'm like, I could totally see that just speaking to these companies every day. That's 60,000 on average. Well, let's just use the company that you worked with. Would that be from like just a job that has not been invoiced, like a service call, or more like the change orders and extras that don't get tracked?
It was a lot of it was little jobs where he was out, his team was out doing other work, and someone phones and says, "Hey, we have a toilet that's overflowing," and they just stop in and quickly they fix it.
There could be so many examples of that. I'll give you one on a larger scale. Imagine a plumbing company like ours. We're on, let's just say, $1 million project, and there's an extra that comes out. You sent them a price, but they're very slow to get you a PO, right? But they say, you know what, you have a written email. We're giving you the go ahead. We'll get you the PO in a few weeks, whatever. Just go ahead and do the work. You do the work. Whoever's in their office never sends the PO, right? You're not organized. You never wrote it down. Months go by and you end up completely forgetting to invoice that extra, right? These are tiny little mistakes, but they're common and they do happen.
It's so common. Even like in our case, like doing with Jobtable, speaking to a lot of companies, doing demos, like a lot of the questions we ask these companies is trying to uncover their process and pain points. And one of the mandatory questions that we always ask is like, during a job, there's obviously extras and change orders that happen. How do you manage that? And I'd say seven, maybe six, 7 out of 10 times there's no process. It's like, oh, I kind of like remember it, I add it to the invoice. Like there's no process. They're just kind of answering the question just to answer, but it's a huge, huge problem.
John, staying on the topic about money for a sec, I have a question for you because you said something interesting that a lot of contractors you speak to don't have any financial education, right? Or numbers, right?
Right.
Well, with that being said, and I actually really compare that to just the public education system, like growing up as a kid. Realistically, if your parents are not good with money, you're not going to be good with money, right? Like if you're raised by a single mom and she's indebted and you're going through school, I mean, really, you're looking at her for financial advice, right? So the best you're going to come out of, you're going to go into high school or out of high school, going into college, knowing about maybe investing in RRSPs. That's about it, right? Well, what could you recommend or what advice could you give to anybody listening if this really hits home with them and say, yeah, you know what, you're right. I don't know anything about financials and money and calculations, and I really need to be on the ball. What would you recommend that they could do as just a middle-aged person or younger, older, it doesn't matter. What can anybody do to kind of help better educate themselves in order to benefit from that?
Well, there's a few things. So if you're talking about how do we get the education, there's going to be a couple ways to get this education when we're busy. One is to get a mentor. So find a business person, and they don't have to be in your trade, but find a business person who is successful. And success is they're operating without debt. They don't have a line of credit. They don't have a balance on their credit cards. They're paid off every month. Their equipment's in good condition and updated. That's someone you want to talk to and say, how do I do this? Ask them, just come right out and say, would you help me? And that's one way. And the other way is to hire a business coach. And that's what I do for a living. So I'm a business coach. And it's important to find a business coach that will specialize in finding where the profit is, the numbers. And one of the programs we offer is called Reading Your Financials Like a Storybook. It's because if we have that knowledge, then we can learn it. And I'll tell you a little story from this week. I had a young guy come over and he's like early 20s. He's looking at starting out as a carpenter. He's been to school and he's doing that. And I said, so where are you getting your information from? He goes, well, I asked my boss who owns a business about how to run a business. And in that conversation, I found out, well, they're not covered by WSIB, and he doesn't always make payroll on time. And there's always a problem on a job with other trades. And I said right there, it's like, why are you asking somebody who's experiencing these problems? And I think that is one of the challenges in the trades is that we ask other people who are in the same boat as us. So maybe the short answer, Charlie, is to find somebody, if it's your personal life or business life, somebody who is successful in the area of finances.
And to that point, it's like, show me your friends and I'll show you your future, right? You always keep the best company that you can. And obviously, if you're rubbing shoulders with people that are financially stable, most likely you're going to come out on top as well, right?
Yeah.
And another thing too about job costing, for anyone that's listening, me and Johnny, obviously, we started off this company 17 years ago, and there was no job costing. It was just cowboys, and that's unfortunately how it was. But we kind of grew into learning how to do the job costing and getting better and better at it. And all I want to say is that I can guarantee you, if you're doing, let's say, $3 to $5 million a year, I promise you, with really good job costing, you could probably find $20, $30, $40,000 of extra money cash laying around. And the reason I bring that up is because most people you talk to, the common argument is, I don't have time, right? I don't have time to learn about financials. I don't have time to do job costing. But what they don't realize is just spending, let's say, 4 hours a week can actually make them $50,000 at the end of the year, right?
Absolutely. And here's the Yeah, and so we did. I don't know if I mentioned this on the last podcast, but I was teaching with another coach, and we were talking to this particular business group, business owners, and we heard that we don't have time, and we were talking about finding $2,000. And what we started doing as we're talking is take $20 bills and start throwing them out as you're talking. And everyone's looking at the ground going, oh, what are you doing? Plus, it's only $2,000. It's nothing.
Yeah.
When you see a pile of $20 bills, it's a really good visual going, that is a lot. But you're right, we throw away $50, $60, $70,000, but it's just a number on a piece of paper. And it's really understanding that is where your profit is. It's right there, and you're not following through.
And just quickly, the psychology of it is the same psychology as being in a casino. This is why they give you chips, because the money loses value, right? So if you have a stack of $500 chips that are equivalent to $50,000, it's a lot easier to throw a small pile of chips into a blackjack table rather than throw a pile of $50,000.
I've never thought of that analogy. It's perfect. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the same thing. It's real money. And just before you jump in there, Costa, there's another thing where we leak money, and that is our employees going to Tim Hortons drive-thrus. You take two people in a truck, and they pull off the street, going to the drive-thru and out. And if it's 10 minutes, and they're going again, that's two people. That's 20 minutes that you've just paid for them to go and get a coffee. And if you're paying your guys $20, $30, $40 an hour, those type inefficiencies really add up. And there's ways to work around those extra stops during the day.
Yeah. That $20 bill, I remember you said that in the first episode. That was like the most standout segment of that episode, where like in a meeting and just like drop 20s and just like, yeah, having that visual. I'm gonna post a link to that segment below, because that's it's true. When you actually see it in front of you, it hits different. Like it really makes it real. Like most people don't think, oh, I'm going to the drive-thru, what's a big deal? But that's the reality. That's 20 minutes. And that's money right there.
And what it is a lot of contractors, that's not how they're used to making money, right? They know that, okay, if I need to make money, I have to price this job, I have to execute, I have to invoice the job. That's how I make money. They don't think that sitting in front of their computer and going through every single fitting, every single hour that was spent on the site, they don't think that that's going to return a profit. And I mean, really, I don't even like to call it a profit. It's like you said, it's a leaked or lost money, but it adds up, and it'll be big at the end of the year.
Yeah, and the other piece that I find is always shocking is I'll ask, can I look at your financials? So if they use QBO or Zero or whatever program, and the first thing I do is I go to the receivables. Because as you look at the receivables and you look at the amount of work that's over 30 days, in many companies, and these are companies that are doing $1 million a year in sales. So we're not even at the 2 million or 3 million, just $1 million a year in sales. I don't know the actual statistics, but it's not uncommon for me to see $100,000 sitting there that's greater than 45 days old. And it's $100,000. And then I go to the bank and I see they're in their line of credit by 75,000. So you're paying interest, or you're losing interest by not having this money collected. And statistically, when a receivable climbs past 30 days, the likeliness of getting paid starts dropping. And once you pass 45, it starts dropping by the day that you're not going to get paid. Or if you are going to get paid, you got to negotiate your way to get paid. And when you're negotiating, is your profit or your cost. You're just throwing it away.
Especially if your margins are low. I can speak directly on this, because this is, we've gone through this as contractors from being, two young guys 17 years ago till now. Obviously things have changed a lot, but looking back when we first started, To your point, it was very crucial to get paid because if not, you were living off of a line of credit, right? Or savings, whatever it was, right? Now, I will say, just to push back a bit on that, is it also helped us build relationship, not hounding people for cash, because a lot of guys that we were starting to work with seemed like they were legitimate guys, and they turned out to be very legitimate guys who we still have relationships with 15 years later. But it was, them being honest with us and saying, look, it's not that I don't want to pay you. It's just I haven't been paid, so I can't give you the funds. And again, when you're starting out, you really have to reason with them. And anyone listening, you have to be honest and say, look, I'm not a huge outfit. I'm starting out. We just started doing work together. I really need this money. And if they're a good contractor that you want to work with in the future, they'll be there for you, and you guys can work together. But now, fast forward to where we are now. It's a mixture. You have the people that they're in 90 days and you can afford it, so it's fine. You know that they're going to pay you. But also, we've gotten in the habit of having our bookkeeper. As soon as you hit 30 days, they're making that call just to put the bug in your ear. They're sending emails, so you do have to stay on top of them, right? Obviously, you're going to give leeway where you can, but that doesn't mean you're giving everybody a free pass. You have to stay on top of them, send the emails so there's documentation, and stay on top of them. And we've noticed that when you do stay on top of them and you're hounding them, not necessarily hounding them, but you're bringing it up, they will pay you, because a lot of times they actually just forget, right? It's like, oh yeah, you know what? Thank you for letting me know. It completely slipped my mind. When all the checks in the mail, it's on the way, right? So that's a really great point. I'm glad you brought that up. But again, it's not a black and white issue, especially when you're starting a business. There are going to be those times where you're in these uncomfortable positions where they're at 45 days and you're desperate for the money. And the guy's telling you, well, look, this is how it is. If you want to work with me, I pay in 60 days. If you don't like it, hit the road. And he could be a great contractor that you could end up doing millions of dollars worth of work for the next 20, 30 years. And that's where, your judge of character has to come into play, and how you feel about that person, and then repeat the process over and over again for the amount of contractors you're going to work with, right?
Yeah, but the piece is, if they say they're pay at 60, then make sure they pay at 60. Right. And the other piece is, when you send your invoice out, if it says on there, we charge 22% per annum interest rate after 30 days, on day 31, send the invoice with the interest line on it. It is amazing how many people will pay you as soon as they see, gee, you're more money than using my line of credit, because other people are using you as their line of credit. And if you're going to negotiate anything off, negotiate off the interest. So you're not doing your profit necessarily there. The other piece is, if you put interest on, this is another mistake that I see. You don't charge HST on the interest. It's out of scope. So in the next month, when you charge interest, you don't charge interest on the interest unless you have a written contract saying you do the compounding interest. Just so in case you do go to court, if you're in error in those two areas, it can just be thrown out of court and you've lost. So
That's
it's
a really good
important,
point.
important to know that.
Yeah, it's good. It's funny how many, like, everyone has that on their invoices, right? Interest rate for overdue. How many companies do you actually think like add that interest on the overdue invoices?
In my experience, if we're talking about companies that are privately held under 5 million a year in sales, I would be bold enough to say there's zero outside of my own company. And I
I
very
agree.
seldom need to do it. And let's just do a quick walkthrough. People will also say, well, there's no point in going to small claims court because it just cost me. And I've done it before and I didn't get anything. The reason you didn't get anything is you didn't follow the process. Process is, if your agreement says interest after 30 days, the courts will look at, did you charge it on month 1 and resend it? Did you charge on month 2 and resend it? Did you charge on month 3 and resend the invoice? Then at that time, you file with the courts after 3 months of doing it. So, Charlie, I'm not talking about the contractor that you want. I'm talking about really the
one and done.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm happy you said that, because they are two completely different things. And I can see that if you're a smaller outfit, you're doing residential jobs and you may not see that person ever again. It's a good way to protect yourself, and you should honestly build that into your contract, because at the end of the day, you don't know this person from a hole in the wall. They've agreed to a service and now they're not paying you. That's a big problem, right?
In,
What I
in,
will say to the bigger contractors that you have to also keep in mind, and me and Johnny went through this as young contractors. You have this sense where you're smaller than they are. You're not as important as they are, right? Like they're the big bad contractor. They're feeding me work. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I'm just going to kind of bring it up loosely in a conversation. Hopefully they don't yell at me, and I'm sure I'll get paid one day. And it's a very understandable situation and mentality to have when you're starting out, because you're just trying to build relationships. But you really have to set your value on an even keel with everybody else, right? You have to have that confidence, because if you're going in and you're always getting the short end of the stick, people will take advantage of you, right? Have confidence in your trade, in your product, and who you are as a company, and how you see yourself in 10 years, 20 years from now, right? And live that way. And honestly, most times when you come up to people and you show them the respect and you're confident, they will give you the respect.
absolutely. That is king. And I don't like working with anyone who's on like a 45-day payment term, but I understand that sometimes takes place. But the other thing you do is, if someone owes you money, this is really important, is create a solution. So let's say you owe me some money, Charlie, and I call you and you go, hey, listen, I didn't get my car had problems, and of course we got to pay the mechanic. I just don't have the cash. I could come back and say, okay, Charlie, I do need to get paid. And yes, this $1,000 is a lot of money to you, and I understand that. But it's equally a lot of money to me. So we've got two options. One is I charge you interest every month, and after 3 months, I will take you to court. Or what we could do is you could pay me, if you could commit to paying me $250 a month for 4 months, starting, on this date, I'll waive the interest. Could you do that, Charlie? So now I'm putting him in a position where he has to commit. And if he says, no, I can't afford it, now we're going to have a different conversation, because now he's admitting fraud. You use my service knowing you're not going to pay me. And
Yeah.
so that's a whole different approach. But what I have found well over the majority of the time is, if you offer a solution, they will take it.
Yeah.
And again,
Good.
it's people and other small business people, they don't think of an option. It's like, hey, Charlie, you owe me 1,000, pay me. And you say, I don't have it. And most, it's like, okay, I'll see you next month and hopefully you can pay me then. Well, if you don't have $1,000 extra this month, the likeliness of you having an extra 1,000 drop into your lap next month is about zero. It just doesn't happen. So
That's really good. I mean, it's we talk about this all the time about having, a lot of these trades and construction companies, really good at their craft, but, not understanding the craft and trade of business. And there's so many layers to that. And you just uncovered one, which is negotiation and solutions, right? That's such a powerful little insight there. Um, but I want to come back to that study, which I find like really fascinating. 18% of trades don't have or have education on numbers, only 18%. Do you think is this unique to trades companies?
no, that is
And
in, sorry, that was small businesses overall.
oh, I see.
And I've never drilled down. I don't know if the study's out there. I would think trades is even a lower number.
Yeah, and that leads me into like the thought of like, that's like a foundational error, like something's going on at a core level. Like why is that? Is it like Charlie said earlier, just like the education system just sucks?
Yeah.
Is it lack of resources? um I don't know. I feel like this is such a fundamental, part of business that as a country, as you know as like a government, let's just say, who wants to see businesses thrive and, maximize output and productivity, like this needs to be a focal point on education. And I
Absolutely.
feel like
And
it's easily solvable too.
When you want a nation of workers and not a nation of thinkers, financial education is not the biggest priority.
yes, there's a lot of wisdom in that saying, and I would agree with that. It's just on the not knowing the numbers. I also coach doctors, accountants, and bookkeepers. They don't know how to run their business. And you would think an accountant could run their business. They can't. They can know how to account for what's in the programs, but they don't have that skill set to bring it over. Why am I not making money? With doctors who end up making huge amounts of money, one of the challenges is that the banks will lend them a huge amount of money. I'm in here at CFB Trenton, largest Air Force base, largest military base in Canada. These people here who go out and defend our country and all that great stuff, they also have great credit rating because the banks know they're going to get this much money every month for the next 20 years. And then they have a pension. And unfortunately, what's going on in society is that our banks lend money. So they actually are going to put these service people in debt. And they sell it because you can make the monthly payment. And since they know they have a job for the next 20 years, and after that they can go in reserves, they just keep borrowing money. The other challenge we have, unlike when I started in business, we didn't have credit cards available to us, and we didn't have line of credits available to us. And so we had to stay within our budget. We had to. And so one of the society problems, credit's way too easy, and we are expected to live on credit. And if you talk to rich people, wealthy people, and this isn't my saying, I got this off listening to somebody, but they said, you never talk to a millionaire by saying, you know how I made it? Owing the bank $200,000 all the time, always being late on my visa payment, always being late on my car payment, and I became a millionaire. Doesn't happen. You talk to millionaires, you talk to the billionaires, they own their stuff. They're the ones lending the money.
Me and Johnny had a realization as to why, just kind of doubling back to not being paid on time. And we went through this period where we started doing some larger jobs, and some columns were 120 days. And when we would go to the GC, they were finally honest with us, and it was like a shock to us. But it's like, oh yeah, the client is waiting for the bank to release $2 million. So we kind of looked at each other. It's like, so they don't even have the money to build this building. It's like, no, there's just the bank is releasing funds every so often, right? Depending on the progress. So it just kind of goes to show you that to your point, everyone's living off credit, right? And then we're just kind of, and then the shit flows downhill, and we have to just kind of, it's calculated risk.
Yeah, and I got a couple other things to add here, but on that, if you're a company your size and you're starting to bid and on these larger jobs, ask this question to the contractor, the GC. Okay, so we're going to do this plumbing job and into these condo buildings, and it's going to be $1 million, and the pricing's all good. How are you going to pay for this, GC, and who is paying you? And you just got to be honest with them. We're talking $1 million. And if the GC says I'm good for it, okay, then let's do 30-day terms. Why are we at 60 or 90 or 120? If you're good for it, pay it. And of course, you do it in a tactful way, but you start just pushing back. But very often, what you'll hear is they're honest with you, and they go, well, we pay you once we get paid. Okay. GC, did you do a credit check on this person building the 10-story or 5-story condo building? They will look at you like deers in a headlight. No, they haven't. So what you're doing in your business, Charlie, is that you are lending someone $1 million on the say of their word that they're getting paid by somebody else saying on their word. And the question comes to is, would the bank operate that way? The answer is no.
No, absolutely not.
And would you operate that way if someone came up to you and Charlie, you guys in the plumbing business, you're all rich, we know that, and said, hey, Charlie, I want to borrow $1 million cash. Trust me, I'll pay you back. I think you do a background check on me,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
But
That's
we
such a
do it,
good point.
yeah,
Yeah.
but we do it in business all the time. We just lend out money. We are
Yeah.
lenders.
Yeah.
That actually, you just kind of made me think about something. I want to kind of pick your brain. I'm just curious if you've ever encountered this as a coach, coaching a contracting company. I'll give you an example. One of your clients might have done a job, let's say for $1 million. There's a 10% holdback. I'm sure you guys deal with holdback,
Yep.
right? Now, his let's say he's a plumber, okay, just to keep it simple. He completes the job. He's been paid in full minus his 10% holdback, and then he finds out that they're probably still 8 months away from completing the job. So you're not going to get substantial completion for another 8 months. So you're not going to see that holdback for a while. What do you do in these situations? How do you coach your clients, your customers? Sorry.
Yeah. So with my clients, what we do first is if we can do it on the front end, okay, of the agreement. So let's say I'm in here and they're just entering this. We have payment terms for the 90. What is the payment terms for the 10% holdback? Is it another 90 days? Is it another 120? So very often in that holdback period, we don't have any terms. It's until the project's completed. Who
Which
is
is what
named?
which is what it usually is, right?
Yeah.
Substantial completion.
But what is substantial completion? What is the definition? I have seen some is when we get when the city takes over in a subdivision, the ownership of the street is no longer unassumed road. Well, I've seen unassumed roads for 2 years and there's people living in the houses.
Yeah.
So that's that part. If your question is, we're already in this situation, what do we do? There's not a lot you can do legally if it wasn't in your contract.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the reason I brought that up is because when you talk about us lending out money, essentially is I floated this entire project and now I have to wait for the little bit of profit that I'm going to make on this 1.5 year project, $100,000, and that you're now making me wait for it for another year. Right. So what I can add to this is, we've done this ourselves and we've actually seen other companies do this, and it's kind of level with them and say, look, this project should have been done. You guys are not done for whatever reason. You guys fucked up the elevators, whatever it is. We've been gone for 9 months now. Okay. And you charge them interest based on the money you would have, the profit you would have made and invested. You charge them that percentage of what you would have made. Well, if you want to be fair with them, charge them 5%. If you want to go on the higher end, 10, 12%. But the point being that, you're charging them something because they're not paying you, and you could have used those funds elsewhere.
Absolutely. And in that, it's got to be in writing prior, and it has to be agreed to and signed. And 22% per annum is the norm out there. And so I think that comes out to what, 10 or 11% a month. So you got to do that, and also put on there the length of time. It's very important. So if there's a situation where a building hasn't closed on time and now they're over, notify the GC first by telephone saying I'm looking for my holdback. That building is supposed to be done. Then you hear what they say, you take your notes, and then you notify them by email that this is unreasonable. I went into this agreement knowing that there's a holdback for 6 months. You're now at month 7. And then you start applying the interest, and you say after 2 months or after 1 month, you need to be fair. Fair is you're not being treated fair, but you got to give them a reasonable amount of time. If this is not paid, we will go to collections.
And again, this is assuming that you've written this in the contract.
Yeah. Now, if you haven't written in the contract, and a contract is also verbal in Canada. That they do hold up in court, but the problem is if we've never had an email back and forth about it, that makes it hard. So what I would suggest is anyone who's in this situation, do the telephone call, make us a demand for the money now. Whatever they tell you, you say, okay, you follow up in an email right then. This is the demand, and use the same term. Requested this, and this is what you've told me. Now you've got something that when you go to court, it's time stamped.
Is there anything written in the law, like assuming you don't have anything put that's in your contract? Is there anything in the law that's just kind of common sense that says, look, this guy's been off site for a year and you guys are still dicking around because of negligence or incompetence or whatever it may be? Is there a point where the courts will actually say, look, pay this guy his holdback? His plumbing inspections have passed, just pay him out.
Yeah, there is, but to get to that, you're looking at a lot of money. To get to the point where you're going to get a judge to order it, and I'm so generalizing here, but if you're looking at going to court with a lawyer, you need to have $40,000 just start in your war chest.
So the point of this is tighten up your contracts.
Yeah.
This is all I'm getting from.
And
yeah.
And when I say $40,000 to get to court, this isn't what you see on TV. This isn't a multi-day court case. This is 10 minutes before a judge. If you're lucky, it's only cost you $40,000. And then you get a judgment. That doesn't mean you're going to get paid. A judgment means the judge says, hey, Charlie, you're correct. You owe this money. Costa, pay him. Costa looks at him. Sure. And then he's right back to, got to go back to him in 30 days. Go, Costa, you didn't pay me. And you repeat and rinse. Like a rinse and repeat. It's all over again. Have your contracts in place. And again, we go back to what you were saying. One of you said earlier, I don't have time to do contracts. I'm too busy. A contract is not hard. You can use the same contract on job after job, and the part about what the deliverables are is what you change. Make sure your contract is written to be enforced in the jurisdiction you're in. So if we're in Ontario, your contract's written that it will be settled under the jurisdiction of Ontario, Canada. Don't put Ontario because someone could interpret that meant Ontario, California. Different laws. And wherever it's mentioned, that's the courts you go to. And the last little piece I've seen where you're dealing with a big company and they'll say in very small print, and any disputes will be resolved in Jamaica or in Guam. That means you have to get a lawyer from that jurisdiction and you have to go to that jurisdiction to file. So make sure it says our jurisdiction of Ontario, Canada, or Alberta, or if we're in the States, make sure it has the state you're in. But this is how we can curve a lot of this is through education. And, we have the coaching at Integrity Corporate Solutions, but we have a brand new product coming out that we're really excited about. And it is called the 6-pack. And the 6-pack is going to be module learning. And we're hoping to be on the market for May of 2026 for this new service. And what the 6-pack is, we'll go to our website and pick from 20 different courses we're offering. So one of it might be on transition, family transition, your business one generation to the next. It'll be a group session of a few of us online together. We'll teach how you do the transition, and there might be 12 on that call. And then we break out over the following week. Each call becomes a group of 6, and we start really drilling in on individual businesses. So in that 6-pack, you might pick, family transition, how to prepare your business for a sale. It's like if you're going to sell your house, what do we got to do? Usually we got to do yard work, clean up the house, paint the house. We have to do the same thing with our business. We have another module is reading your financials like a storybook. So when the accountant gives you your financials at the year end, we're not sitting there just looking at them with a blank look and going, yeah, I get it. And you're lying. You don't understand your financials. So we teach how to understand them. And better yet, we teach what are the good questions to ask? What should we be asking? And there's another one of legal foundations. And it's, when I say we, it's just not me. Other coaches within our company will be teaching how to do legal foundations. How do you keep your minute book to date? Charlie, quick question. Is your minute book right current with everything you're doing in your business today?
I mean, I'd like to say yes, but that
What-
I'd be lying to you.
Yeah. And when a lot of people say, well, our accountant gives us something every year to put in our minute book. That's not keeping it up to date. That's like the bare standard. But
Yeah.
why these things are important. There's a lot of good reasons why they're important, especially when we have a serious incident where someone's hurt on a job site. Everything's important. So it's a really cool program, and it's going to be cost effective. You buy 6 of these in the 6-pack, and then instead of committing to full-blown coaching, you can get specific answers. And I've got it over here to the side, but in Canada, there was a study done out by the government, and they said small business people that signed up for education, and I don't know where they were getting, if it's from the colleges, night school or wherever it was, but they said 83% of small business owners said within 90 days they were more successful in knowing their profit, in dealing with their human resources, in handling their business. And there was another study out of the UK. Theirs wasn't as great. Don't know how the UK operated theirs, but they did say it was out of 5,000 small businesses. Put them into a program, an hour and a half, twice a month. And after just 2 months of doing an hour and a half, that there was an impact to their profitability by 62%.
Wow.
So this education that we're delivering, it doesn't matter if you have ADHD or you can't read, because a lot of people can't read well or have poor comprehension. It's delivered in a way that you can actually take what we teach and it's applicable. We don't give homework that's just homework for the sake of homework. We actually give real life examples, and then we say, okay, how about your business? What are your receivables at? And it is really exciting product of how much you can increase. And that's same with full coaching, either weekly or alternating weeks. The goal of that coaching is to generate increased profitability. And in our case, our goal is within 3 months of contracting us to work in your company, we're an investment that's generating an ROI. So you don't even notice the payment to us because the sales or net dollars have increased that much that we're more than paying for ourselves. And so if you're looking for a coach, either us or somebody else, those are the questions you need to ask is, so it's not an expense, it's an investment. When will I start getting my return on this investment? And that's what education does, either through our new program that we'll be launching in the spring with 6-pack at integritycoaching.ca or with regular coaching.
That's amazing. Who are these modules typically designed for? Like what size company, like who would benefit the most?
Great question. The ones that would benefit the most is from the $1 million to the $5 million company. Once you get successfully over the 5 million year over year, you should have enough professional help in your organization to carry you. Now, in saying that, I coach companies that are 10 million, 20 million, $50 million, but that's really becoming a specialized coaching. For this kind of education, it is taking the operator who's in the business. They're on the tools are just out of the tools, and we help educate them. And it is a lot of fun because for me, we get to actually see the results in real time.
I love that. How long do these modules last? Like, how long are they?
Uh, the how it will work. So module, if you're in a module today, let's say we're doing business transition, we're moving it to our children. That module is an hour and a half long, and there may be 12 people in the classroom, in the virtual classroom. Then we'll meet back the following week for 1 hour, and we split the class in half to 6, and then we go back through it again. But now at 6, we can actually start hearing about individual challenges. And if Charlie was sitting there, if he says this is what we're experiencing, pretty well generally the whole group is experiencing it. And the other thing that we try to do at that point is build relationships between the different contractors that are in the modules, so they can connect and build from each other on their own time. And then we have one more session the following week of 1 hour. And then we're done transitions. And then, it might be the same time this in the week, like another time in the same week, or the next one to follow will be as well, you know what, I'm having problems in understanding my financials, and you just book it. And we're using, I know one of your friends from Blue Collar, Wes and Chris from down there, their company is the one that's creating the whole organizational back end, so we can offer this through their web construction.
Amazing. I love that. That's we were talking about earlier how, the lack of education on numbers and just in general, important things that are practical that help, especially businesses grow. And I think that's the beautiful thing about free market and free enterprise. You have people like you who are, facilitating amazing, resources that are available to people, right? So you really got to take it upon yourself to make it happen.
Absolutely. And, when we talk, and earlier we were talking about all of us about people saying, I don't have time to go and chase down this money. Pick one of our modules, and it's 3.5 hour investment in 1 month. And what if we said in those 3.5 hours, you're going to be able to collect $50,000 of your receivables. We'll teach you how. We'll teach you the approach. We'll teach you how to negotiate on your receivables. All that stuff. And if you can't afford that 3.5 hours a month in education, then I would really question, why are you a business owner? And the comparison is a brother-in-law who is a firefighter in the GTA, a captain. What do they do all the time? They practice, they practice, they practice. And, they practice how to get somebody out of a vehicle. They know how to do it. He's been doing this for 25 years, and he still has these practices. We're beside the biggest air base in Canada. And the Herc pilots, they fly over our house on night vision flying for like 7-8 hours, constantly over the house all night long. Not complaining. We knew there's an air base here. But you would think a pilot who's been flying for 15 years would know how to fly at night, but they still go and get their education. And it's the same thing in the private sector. We need to practice our trade. And we do that every day. We go out and we're hanging drywall or laying pipe. We're practicing. We got to do the same thing on the business. We have to learn it. So at integritycoaching.ca, the 6-pack is that you buy 6 of these modules, and over a year or over 2 months or 3 months, you'll be able to actually, depends on your schedule, how fast you want to take the overall program. And our modules, they're still being written out, but we have over 20 modules now, and we could do over 100 if the demand's there. So
It sounds truly incredible. And that's coming out in May.
that's the goal. We were aiming for April, but as many projects happen, there's some just little glitches, and we're
Yeah.
working out those technical glitches right now.
Amazing.
Because when we hit the ground, we want everything to be just perfect on the technical website and all that type of parts of the business.
That's great.
That's really great. Yeah. And like you said, it's, if you can't invest the time to, continue the education and being better at business and the trades, yeah, you've got to question, what you're doing. I guess that's what separates, the A players and the B and C players, right?
Absolutely. And we all know tradespeople in our own local communities, and we see one guy who's 65 years old who is just struggling, and he's been in the trades for 30 years owning his own business. And he's got the old trucks, and he's still on the tools, and he says, I have to work forever. And then we see another guy who's 65 years old who isn't struggling, and they're in the exact same trade in the same town. So there's no market difference. There's no cost difference. There's no differences except one guy learned how to build a business and the other guy didn't. And can I just share one of my favorite examples of that?
Please.
A really good friend of mine, and he purchased one of these quick lube places. And I had great concerns. I said, nobody makes good money in quick lube. It just doesn't happen. And he challenged me and he said, I'm going to be different. He wasn't just different. He has made a massive amount of money in quick lube because they start doing everything as measuring the time it takes for the electric motor to lift the doors. So when a car comes in and a car leaves, we're talking seconds difference between a good motor that lifts the door and the cheap one. But he started adding, okay, you know what? It's an extra 20 seconds to open a door on each end. So we just increase the cost of that car being in our bay by 40 seconds. And he did that with everything. And he didn't make his workers work harder. He just ran it by the numbers.
Okay.
And it's running your business by the numbers is the key. And if you tell me you do $5 million, $10 million a year, or 400,000, the gross does not impress me at all. What is your tax return saying your profit was? Because if you're doing $5 million a year and your profit is $20,000, go and get a job, go and work at Hydro One. You'll make more money there if we're talking about making money. But if you're running a business at 5 million and you're saying we're running a profit of 750,000 a year, yeah, you got my attention because you're running a business.
Yeah.
Well, amazing stuff. Was there anything missing here, John, before we wrap up? Anything you want to add?
I think the two big pieces, and just to repeat them, actually three. So number one is at every level of business, there's a bankruptcy rate or a fall away rate about 50%. So the first level is about $100,000. A lot of guys will go out and try to build a business. They do 100,000 and they don't come back next year. They basically just shut it down. Then we have a group that makes it to $300,000. And these are approximate numbers or ranges actually. And at this point, they have hired their brother, their sister, their next door neighbor, everyone they know. And now they got to go to the next level. We got to hire people we don't know. And there's about a 50% drop away rate here where the business fails. We get to $750,000 to $1 million. One of the hardest hurdles to climb in business is going from that $750,000 in sales to over $1 million, because that's where we have to move from really being on the tools and doing things by the gut to what's my accountant telling me? What's the bookkeeper telling me? What's my lawyer telling me? You have to start moving into that business level. And then the next one is moving from that $4 to $5 million. That's a really tricky level because it comes cash flow. And it also means protecting our profits. And very often at that 4 to 5 million, we have picked up too much luggage on the way through, too much baggage. And at that point, we also may not be able to keep the bookkeeper we had previously. And that's the last piece on this part is when you're building your business, you can do the books at 100,000 or 200,000. But as your business grows, you need people with different skills. And when you're starting to get up to 5 million into 10 million, you just don't want a bookkeeper. You want someone who's gone to school and is a certified bookkeeper. You want somebody, and almost no one does this, you can have certifications in payroll. Get your certification in payroll. Don't be running a payroll for a $5 million company and just go, we just do it with the bookkeeper. There's certifications, you better have somebody with them. There's a lot of pieces. The next thing is, it comes down to is knowing your numbers. It comes to numbers. And the final piece is, and this is the biggest piece of all, know your destination. Where am I going with this business? How big do I want to get? And we don't all have to get big. We can get to the 2 million and go, that's a great lifestyle. And the last part of that is, how am I going to exit from this business? Anyone in their 30s who's in business should have an exit plan. How am I going to get out of this? Next 20 years will go by fast. Am I going to sell it, shut it down, or do a family transition to the next generation? And why that's important is because when we get towards the end, in our last 10 years, you need to be preparing your business for that sale. And there's a lot of reasons why, but that's, unless you're there, it doesn't matter. But in the last 10 years, you got to prepare that business for a sale.
We'll have to have you on again just to go through those topics.
There's so much. Yes.
There is. This is, that's why I love having you on, John. This is truly one of those episodes, just like the last one, where you're going to have to rewind, re-listen, and because there's so much value in here. So really appreciate this, and really excited to come May with the courses and the modules. That sounds incredible as well. We'll be sharing that to our audience for sure.
Yeah, when we get there, I will make sure I let both of you know that, hey, we're going to be going live, so it's happening, and check it out.
Absolutely. John, the absolute pleasure. If anyone wanted to learn more about you, reach out. Where's the best place to do that?
The best is you could contact me by telephone, 613-243-7038. 613-243-7038. And it seems odd to say telephone, but I find a lot of tradespeople will send me a text. And I quite often get those text messages late at night where they're tired and fed up. And it's like, I have payroll tomorrow and I can't make it. What do I do? I'm just putting the spoiler alert out. 11 o'clock at night, I don't mind the call or the text, but honestly, there's not much we can do at 11 o'clock at night before payroll. The other way is you can feel free to contact me through our email, john@integritycorporatesolutions.com. And those are the two primary ways. And just all you have to do is say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm in business, I got some questions. I'm happy to talk to anyone for 15 minutes. There is no charge for that. That's complimentary. That's just for the trades and business people. But in that, I hope to answer your question. And at the same time, I will direct you to, here's our 6-pack that you might be interested in. But it's definitely good. And if you're taking notes of what we've talked about in the future, one of the things is how to prepare your business for its worst day. And the worst day is a fatality or a serious incident on the work site. That is probably one of the programs that we deliver that everyone says, oh, I'll just call 911. Yeah, that's just the beginning of the nightmare that you're going to live in. And why it's so important is that there's different percentages for every industry. But if you have a fatality on your work site, you have a 30 to 70% chance you would be bankrupt within 12 months and you have not made it to court yet. So just let that sink in. 30 to 70% bankruptcy rate within 12 months if you have a fatality.
Wow.
Exclusion is for a multinational. We're talking about operators under 10 million a year in sales. So anyone who's under 10 million a year in sales, you're one of them. And the scary part is it's not an easy fall because you're going to have emotions. Someone's lost their life. You've lost your business, your house, and you haven't made it to court yet for a judgment to be made against you, which could be financial or criminal. And that's not to scare them, but that is to wake anyone up who's in business. You need to know how to best protect yourself.
Is that one of the modules as well?
It's going to be, yes.
That's great.
Again, it's trying to decide which modules we should be leading with. And maybe what I'll do is even give Charlie a call and go, hey, in your business, here's 20 modules. Which ones would have helped you now or earlier, and try to determine which ones we're going to launch in that order.
Absolutely. We'd be happy to help you with that.
Great. Thank you. We didn't know how to solve this challenge we're having is what do we lead with?
Yeah. And honestly, we know, and there's a ton of tradesmen that we can give you numbers to, right? That you can call and pick their brain as well.
Perfect. Beautiful.
Different trades, different levels in the trade.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks, John. This was
appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Really valuable. We look forward to having you again, and appreciate everyone listening. If you got this far, if you are looking to streamline operations, make your day-to-day more efficient, do check out jobtable.com. There's a 14-day free trial, and see how that can improve your day-to-day. And John will put your information down below as well. And until next time, really appreciate it.
John, thanks again.
You're welcome. Have a really terrific day.
You too.
You too.